Warm greetings. Today is Wednesday, August 26, 2026. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia. At the time of recording this video, it is 4:30 in the afternoon, local time, in the Eastern Caribbean, where we continue to closely monitor the evolution of Invest 96. And in this video I will share updated information about the disturbance and the track and intensity projections. And as you will see in the next few minutes, there are some changes in the projections that could bring the disturbance across the northeastern Caribbean. And although for now it is projected that it would arrive as a strong tropical wave, the good news is that it could bring an increase in rainfall between Sunday and Monday of next week. But most importantly, during the morning and afternoon today, Invest 96 has shown some signs of tropical organization, although the National Hurricane Center did not increase the development probabilities. As you can see in the infrared satellite animation, it is generating an area of convection near the center of circulation, and if this persists, there is a possibility that during the next 36 hours, the fourth tropical depression of the season could form here, just before encountering wind shear and dry air conditions that would limit its development beginning Friday. If we zoom in on the visible satellite animation, we can see that Invest 96 has good rotation and is beginning to show some signs of a more defined circulation. And if this pattern continues, it could develop a closed circulation in the lower levels of the atmosphere, which could be enough for it to be classified as a tropical depression. In addition, we also see that some spiral bands have been developing, which are characteristics of systems that are about to develop into a tropical cyclone. And probably because of this, the National Hurricane Center at 2 in the afternoon maintained the development probabilities at 60% during the next 48 hours. The area of possible development extends only to longitude 50 degrees west, since if Invest 96 does not manage to develop during the next 36 hours, it is very likely that it will not become a tropical cyclone before reaching the Caribbean. So, in other words, the 60% probability of development is from today through tomorrow night, Thursday, since between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, as it approaches the Caribbean, it will encounter unfavorable conditions for organization or strengthening. In addition, if we analyze satellite data, we can see that during the morning Invest 96 had a fairly defined circulation, although it was still not closed in the lower levels of the atmosphere, but in the southwestern quadrant it was generating winds between 30 and 35 miles per hour, which would bring the disturbance closer to already becoming a tropical depression. But for this to occur, the area of convection over the center of circulation must persist. And this is why I understand that the National Hurricane Center will wait about 12 hours to determine whether or not it is already a tropical depression. And as you will see later in the video, some models have responded to a more organized system, showing some short-term changes in the projections. One of the reasons why Invest 96 has managed to remain relatively strong during the day today is that despite having dry air to the northwest, it has managed to create a barrier of moisture around the circulation which for now has allowed the area of convection and showers to persist. However, beginning Friday, as it moves farther west-northwest and with the help of wind shear, dry and stable air could enter the circulation of the disturbance and limit its development or strengthening in the event that it manages to become a tropical depression between today and tomorrow. Regarding the wind shear, look at how during the morning hours on Friday the models project stronger than normal wind shear anomalies from the southwest, which will be affecting the disturbance when it approaches longitude 45 or 50 degrees west. And this wind will be so strong that it is very likely to significantly weaken the disturbance. And again, this is why the window for development is approximately another 36 hours. Another important change during the day today is that the center of circulation was reforming a little farther south, and this has resulted in some changes in the track projections. Look at how the specialized track models now have the disturbance reaching the northeastern Caribbean and crossing over the northern half of the Lesser Antilles and very close to Puerto Rico between Sunday and Monday. Now, if you live in the northeastern Caribbean, for now you should not be concerned, just remain watchful. But it is important for you to know that the intensity models keep the disturbance relatively weak, and that only a few manage to develop a tropical depression or weak tropical storm. And in fact the vast majority in about 4 to 5 days keep it as a tropical wave when it passes over the northeastern Caribbean region. Now, let's look at the latest projections from the global models, which have adjusted the intensity of the disturbance somewhat due to the organization it has shown during the morning and afternoon today. And for example, the European model develops a tropical depression during the next 12 to 18 hours, but as the system moves west and beginning Friday, it starts losing intensity until weakening into a tropical wave east of the Caribbean, and the European model maintains the projection that it would arrive as a strong tropical wave in the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico between Sunday and Monday, and during the nighttime hours on Monday affecting the Dominican Republic. In fact, the artificial intelligence version of the European model agrees that it would reach this area as a strong tropical wave, which if it occurs would be good news because it could bring an increase in precipitation across the northeastern Caribbean, which would be very welcome due to the drought conditions affecting us. On the other hand, we have the American model, which during the latest runs has increasingly readjusted its projection to be more similar to the other models. This afternoon it also has a tropical depression forming during the next 24 hours, but like the other models, it begins to weaken the system when it approaches longitude 50 degrees west, and beginning Friday afternoon weakens the system until bringing it over the northern half of the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico between Sunday and Monday, and then over the Dominican Republic. And the artificial intelligence version of the American model also has a strong tropical wave when it crosses over the northeastern Caribbean. And we see the same thing in the projection from the German model. It also develops a tropical depression in the next 12 to 24 hours, but as it approaches the Caribbean, it begins to weaken until passing very close, just northeast of the Lesser Antilles. And as if that were not enough, the United Kingdom model also agrees with this projection. In this case it has a strong tropical wave or tropical depression, passing very close just north of the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico between Sunday and Monday. So we definitely have considerable consensus and unanimity among the models that it could eventually pass over the northern half of the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and very close to the Dominican Republic between Sunday and Monday. Nevertheless, it is projected to pass through the region as a strong tropical wave. Of course, it is always important to remain attentive to any changes in the projections, and in the medium and long term it is important for residents of the Bahamas and the state of Florida to pay attention to its evolution because the model ensemble members show the possibility of organization when it is over or near the Bahamas. In fact, almost none of the European model ensemble members develop a tropical cyclone before reaching the Caribbean, and it is not until about 10 to 12 days from now and when it perhaps moves through the Bahamas area where it could encounter favorable conditions, and in some runs, some members even have the first hurricane of the season in the area. Now, remember that projections beyond 7 days have a high margin of error, so we should remain calm and monitor the situation calmly, especially if you live in the Bahamas and Florida. Meanwhile, in the case of the Google DeepMind artificial intelligence model ensemble members, unlike the projections from this morning, some members now develop a tropical depression before reaching the Caribbean, most likely in response to the structure that the system currently has, but notice that they all dissipate it when it moves near Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles. And like the European model ensemble members well into the long range and during the first week of September, some show the possibility of reorganization either in the northern Gulf of Mexico or near the Bahamas. And since here in the eastern Caribbean we are closely watching the possibility that it could bring precipitation, take a look at some updated precipitation totals. In the case of the American model, it projects that Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and the northern half of the Lesser Antilles could accumulate between 1 and 3 inches between Sunday and Tuesday, while the European model has somewhat lower totals, but between 1 and 2 inches, and any rain will be very welcome in the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. In addition, and without significant impacts, a somewhat windy Sunday and Monday are also anticipated for the region. Some projections have wind gusts between 25 and 30 miles per hour that could affect the northern half of the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. So here at Hurricane Info we will continue to monitor the evolution of Invest 96 and in particular, the National Hurricane Center's tropical weather outlook, which updates at 8 tonight, and I will be watching closely to keep you informed. But again, remember that if you live in the northeastern Caribbean, you should not be concerned because the probabilities that it will arrive as a tropical storm are extremely low, and instead everything seems to indicate that it will bring some rain that is actually beneficial for the region. So to stay informed about the forecast for Invest 96 and to learn about any changes in the projections, I invite you to like this video. In addition, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell so that you receive notifications when I record new videos. If there are no significant changes, I will be recording the next video during the afternoon hours tomorrow, Thursday. See you later.